Hello, everyone. Hello, good evening, good evening. It is so good to have you with me this evening. I'm Linda Peavy. I am the owner of LaPav Consulting LLC, and I'm going to be your host for today. So come on in and join me this evening. I have a wonderful webinar plan for you. We're going to take a little over an hour, then we're going to go into some great Q&A. So please come into the webinar, and I'm going to be checking in the chat. Excellent. So first of all, again, I'm Linda Peavy. I'm the owner of LaPav Consulting LLC. This is a marketing, communications, and grant writing company. Hello, everyone. And I am in Ohio, and I am wearing my winter white because we have a snowstorm coming. Yes, we do. We have a snowstorm coming. So please give your city or state a shout out into the chat. Let me know where you are coming in from. Little Rock, Arkansas. All right, Little Rock, Seattle, Savannah, the ATL. Hey, Toledo. I used to live in Toledo. Houston, Los Angeles, Memphis, DC, Milwaukee, Atlanta, Louisiana. All right, for Cleveland. So yes, I'm in a suburb of Cleveland in Ohio. Thank you everyone for joining me. Again, my name is Linda Peavy. I am the owner of LaPav Consulting LLC, and I'm going to be your host for this evening. And anyone who knows me knows that this is like a no fluff zone. You are here to learn about grant writing, and that is exactly what you're going to learn today. So I'm going to get started by sharing my screen. All righty. And we're going to start with just like a brief 30-second commercial. It was a television commercial that I found. It'll give you a little more information about me and my background. And then we're going to get started because we have a lot to get through tonight. So let me share my screen, and there we are.
Hi, I'm Linda Peavy, owner of LaPav Consulting. My passion is to place your organization on the path to excellence. Are you struggling to communicate your message, reach target audiences, or secure funding? From marketing communications to grant writing, we achieve your goals. We've worked with high-profile clients and have secured $17 million in funding for charter schools and nonprofits. Call today to discuss what your success looks like and how LaPav Consulting can help.
All right, moving right along. So let me just make sure everyone is in the right space. This is Grant Writing for Women-Owned Businesses. And we are going to, again, have just a little over an hour for the webinar. I want you to stay until the end because I have a surprise for you. And then we're going to go into some great Q&A. And as most of you know who know me or who have ever been on my webinars before, you know that in the Q&A, I answer every question live so that I give you as much support as I possibly can. So again, for those of you who are just coming in, I'm Linda Peavy, owner of LaPav Consulting, and I have a marketing, communications, and grant writing company. I have been in this business for almost 14 years now. I've had LaPav Consulting, and I have written over $17 million. And let me just say secure. There's a big difference between writing grants and securing grants. So I've secured over $17 million in funding and business development. I have written just about every kind of grant you can imagine, from private foundations to local foundations to community foundations to those federal grants, which we know are a beast in many different areas, from education, religious programs, low-income educational programming, jobs development, new technology, curriculum resources, salaries, you name it. I have probably written a grant about it. So I've been in this sphere for quite some time. And in terms of the kinds of resources that I've written, certainly the grants, yes, but I've also written the actual applications. I've written the grant applications that some of you may know as requests for proposals. I have written the scoring template. So with many, many grant applications, they're scored. And so I have developed those scoring templates that determine what kind of grade or what type of score you get for the grant. And that determines whether or not that you get the grant often. I've completed grant administration work, and I have helped nonprofits and small businesses develop partnerships that will help you to achieve getting approved for a grant. Those partnerships are critical. We'll talk about them later. I have completed the grantee reports, right? So once you get a grant, those grantee reports become critical, because if you don't turn them in, oftentimes that funder can get the money back. So that report is really, really important. And I also conduct grant writing workshops. I've completed workshops for the Urban League, for the Council of Smaller Enterprises, and other organizations. And I am the former executive director of a nonprofit. So I know that there are some nonprofits with us today. So let me know in the chat whether or not you're a small business. I know most of you are small businesses, but I think I have some nonprofits with me too. So let me know in the chat what you are. Are you a nonprofit? Are you a small business? Or maybe you're both, right? We have a lot of small businesses that also develop nonprofits. So we have a lot of small businesses. Great, great, great. So that's very helpful to know. So I have a small business, right? But I've also been the executive director of a nonprofit. So I feel your pain. I know how difficult it is to try to secure funding. And so I'm here to help you create a cleaner path to getting funded. A little bit about my journey to getting to where I was able to secure $17 million. I was the executive at a publishing house where I was the marketing director and the associate publisher. I got injured and retired from that job, came home to Cleveland. And as you can imagine, it took me a couple of years to recover. And when I was on my feet again, there were no publishing jobs in Cleveland. As you can imagine, this is not the publishing mecca of the country. And so I, at that point, started my own company. And sometimes we have to do that, right? As small business owners, I had never dreamed of being an entrepreneur. It was out of necessity because I like eating. So I needed to be able to work. And so one of my first contract positions was to become the executive director of a nonprofit. And that's where I really started to learn how to write grants. And it was during that time that I was asked literally to write a grant to save my own job. I didn't know that before I took the job of the executive director. But once I got into the position, I was told, well, we don't have any money. And in order for you to continue on, you're going to need to write grants that would pay for the salary of your position. So that was really being thrown into the fire, right? But it allowed me to be able to get really, really good at writing grants. And so that's where it all started. So even when I left that particular position, I realized that there was a connection right between learning the process of writing grants and getting connected to the funding that you need. And that's what we're going to talk about today, that process. And it is a process. It's too difficult to just see a grant available, pull it off of the internet and think you're going to complete it and send it off. And voila, you get the grant. There is a process to securing grants. And that's what we are going to talk about today. I'm here to show you exactly what that process is so that this is no longer foreign to you, so that you understand that there is a way in which you prepare to write grants and that you submit the grants and that you do the follow-up. And so we're going to learn today the 3 keys to funding your mission and your passion. We're going to learn what to write. What do you write in that grant application? We're going to learn how to write. How do you write that will best position you as the grant candidate to be chosen for funding? And then I'm going to show you some secrets that I've learned over the last, almost 14 years that really, really helps you to get noticed. These are proven ways that you can get your application noticed, because as you can imagine, if it's a competitive grant, there is a sea of applications that are out there. Let me make sure. Okay, so why this class? Entrepreneurs, you need help with funding, right? So there is a lack of qualified professional freelance grant writers that will be able to help you get funding, right? And so grant writing, it is a skill, right? And the skill can be quite costly. So for your newer grant writers, the newer grant writers can charge anywhere between maybe $35 to $50 an hour. If you're kind of mildly experienced, you can charge anywhere from $50 to $75 an hour. But if you are a well-seasoned grant writer, you're charging between $100 to $200 an hour. So this is a costly skill, and you do want a professional grant writer working with you. It's impossible for me to help everyone that needed my services. And so this is really one of the reasons why I offer this free webinar, so that you can be equipped with the tools to move forward to help you able to secure the future of your small business. And also I want to make sure everyone can see me and hear me okay before I get into the meat of things. Just give me a shout out into the chat and give me a yes if you can see me and hear me okay. Yes, 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 yes. Awesome. All right, moving right along. So again, why are you taking this class? So this is what I want you to know. You don't have to be a professional grant writer to secure the grants. You just need to know the process. And that's what we're going to talk about today. What to write, how to write, and when to get notice to get that funding. All right, so before we get into the meat of the grant writing, two different incidents really changed the landscape of philanthropy. You need to understand this because you need to know, what is the grant writing landscape like right now? Well, the first was COVID-19. So before COVID-19, it was almost unheard of for small businesses to get grant funding. Most of the grants went to nonprofit organizations. However, what COVID-19 did for so many small businesses that went out of business, it really just peeled back the onion layer on just how vulnerable we are as small businesses. You probably know someone who went out of business. So many businesses they were not able to continue to function with a lack of customers, with having to shut down. And so what happened is that many of the foundations and your larger Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies said, we need to do something about this. We see all of these businesses going under, right? And unlike some nonprofits that have a safety net of grants, small businesses, we didn't have that safety net. And so they started to pool together resources and pools of money. So the foundation started to literally shift a lot of their giving from some of their typical areas over to COVID-19, and especially for small businesses. And then you had the Fortune 500 and the Fortune 100 companies literally start creating pools of money that they turn into grants just for small businesses. And so much of that funding is earmarked for women-owned businesses, more so than ever before. There are funds, there are grant funds available for women-owned businesses. And it's one of the reasons why I like to give this webinar, because so many of you still don't know that grant money is available. And as you know, grants are free. And so this is free money that you have access to. Again, it's about knowing the process of being able to get it. Many of us had to pivot, right? Pivot our organizations. I remember working with a group called One More Wave, and they were an organization that helped disabled veterans with surf therapy. So they would go out into the ocean and they would surf, and it would help with the PTSD and the depression. And because of COVID-19, they had to shut down. And so I helped them to create this online program where they could still assist the veterans of PTSD only through Zoom conferences. So they were able to bring on speakers. They were able to create this community where this brotherhood could still work and heal together. And so I know many of you had to do that. I know there are some churches online with me today too. And as you know, a lot of churches had to completely shift to their online sessions. Some of you still are, but you had to pivot is what I'm wanting you to understand. And so for many of you, when you think about going after these grants, you can talk about how COVID-19 changed your business and how the recovery, which is what we're in now. We were in this emergency funding state, but now we're in COVID recovery and there's funds available for recovery. You can talk about what you had to do. You can talk about how your business was forever changed because of COVID-19 when it comes to wanting to secure the grant funding. The other incident that really changed the landscape of philanthropy was the George Floyd incident. And that's all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so now, again, you had especially your Fortune 500 and 100 companies wanting to do something about racial injustice. And so many of them created these pools of money that are now available through grants, right, to give to especially small businesses and your women-owned businesses and then your minority-owned businesses. So that's why there is such a large dearth of money that's available between the Fortune 500 companies that wanted to address racial injustice and COVID-19. It is easier, I say easier, not easy, easier for us women-owned businesses to get funding more so than has ever been in the past. And so that's a win for us all. And so we'll start into just some grant basics so that we're all on the same page. So most of you already know, but I still get this question, what is a grant? And so a grant is a sum of money given by a government or other organization for a particular purpose. But the most important thing you need to know is that grants are not paid back. And so again, pre-COVID-19, most of the grants went to your nonprofits or your 501c3 organizations. But now due to COVID-19, you have so many entrepreneurs and for-profit organizations receiving more and more grant money. And for those of you who are nonprofits, I always say, get your 501c3 because that is how you're going to apply for the overwhelming majority of grants. If you are a nonprofit, that only pertains to nonprofit organizations. And so the grant application or the proposal is simply the application that you're going to complete in order to apply for the particular grant. And it varies based on the organization, but there are key elements to every single grant application. And that's what we're going to go through tonight. So more grant basics. So for example, in 2015, there were over 86,000 foundations that gave grants totaling over $62 billion. 92% of the foundations were independent organizations, 3% were corporate, and 1% were community organizations. Here in the Cleveland area, we have what I believe is the largest community foundation, and that's the Cleveland Foundation. But look what happened in 2019. So foundation giving increased to over $75 billion. That's a 2.5% increase from 2018. Now, these numbers are important because you need to know that in 2021, that number is expected to increase even higher. The money is available. Do not think that because we've been through a pandemic and we're still going through a pandemic, that somehow funding was curtailed. It was not. So the funding continues to increase year after year after year. The money is there. It is available. It is about the process of learning how to get it. So now we're going to go into preparing to secure and write a grant. So there's a couple of things you need to do to prepare your organization for applying for grant money. And one, I say this to everyone that I talk to. I put this in all of my webinars because it's important. You're preparing to write a grant application. Just go through the basic writing skills. There's like 5 basic writing skills: proper spelling, good reading, sentence and paragraph structure. Just knowing that there are different types of writing. The way in which you write a nonfiction novel is different than the way in which you write poems. So just know that grant writing is about storytelling, which we'll talk about later, because you are telling your story of your organization. And then this is critical, editing and rewriting. This is so important because it will make for a better application. And so I always give out this example here of an article that I want all of you to read. It's called Improve Writing Skills Dramatically by Doing These 15 Things. And it's by a software that I absolutely love, which is Grammarly. So Grammarly is an editing software package. It is free. It is free, people. And so I would encourage all of you to download Grammarly onto your computers. Now, I use the professional version. So there is a regular version, which is great. I happen to use the professional version, which is maybe about $120 a year. But they wrote this article called Improve Writing Skills Dramatically by Doing These 15 Things. And right now it should be placed into the chat. Yeah, so I see people are saying Grammarly is great. It is outstanding. Don't use it solely though. I'm a professional editor. So I believe in, even after you use Grammarly, printing out that document and editing it line by line by line. That's what all professional editors do. But Grammarly is a game changer. And so all of you, even if you're a professional editor, even if you're a professional writer, read this article. It is going to help your writing. All right, so again, we're preparing for the process of seeking and writing grants. So one avenue that you want to follow is document preparation. There are documents that you are going to need before you write one syllable. So start to gather these documents. Make sure you have these documents available before you start seeking and applying for grants. One is the EIN, which is your employer identification number. The 501c3, again, that only pertains to nonprofits. The certificate of incorporation, right? Your bylaws, your state certification, which will determine whether or not you are in good standing. And I always tell this story. I was on a webinar about 2 months ago. And when we got to this slide, a young lady said, this is so true because she applied for a grant. There were multiple people applying for the same grant. There was so much competition. She was the only one who got the grant. Why? Because she was able to show her state certification that she was in good standing to do business in her state. So all of you as small business owners should have a current state certification to say that you're legally allowed to do business in your state. And so in order to do this, you want to go to your Secretary of State's website and put in go to the business section of your Secretary of State's website and put in your name and make sure that you are in good standing to do business in your state, that you have a business license. And so if you don't, that is the website that you want to be able to apply for your business license. And you keep it current. I think here in Ohio, you only need to pay a fee about maybe every 5 years or so. So also the list of board of directors, right? List of your staff, your letters of support. Now, this is important before you start writing the grant because this takes time. Even if you're new, even if you're a new business, you want letters of support from people who maybe know of your character, or maybe they know the previous business that you had, or maybe they know your years of experience working for another organization. You want to give them time to write the letter of support so that you have these letters ready to go, once you start completing your grant application. Your audited financial statement, that's important. Like only a CPA can provide an audited financial statement, but even if it's not audited, some applications will want you to have an audited statement. Even if you don't have an audit one and you want to be able to submit your financial statements, we're talking about your balance sheet, your current operating budget, right? Your income statement. So you want to have your financial statements ready. And if you are new, if you are brand new, you still want to have a forecast of what your operations budget is going to be. You need these numbers in order to apply for a grant. And then you also want to list other funding resources. So I always say no one foundation wants to be the sole foundation that's providing money to you. So if you have other funders, put that in your grant application, get that information ready. It could be organizations that have provided in-kind services, in-kind donations. It doesn't have to be money, right? Or maybe you did receive grant money, or maybe you did receive some other kind of funding. Maybe you have an angel investor. What foundations want to know is that there's some other organization out there, some other business that has decided, yes, you were worthy of their financial support or their in-kind services. All right, so now we're going to go into the grant application, what to write. So before I go any further, if you have questions, I'm going to get to all of the questions. Please put them in the Q&A. If you don't get to put them, if you don't get a chance to put them in the Q&A, just put them in the chat, because after we're done, we go through the Q&A and we go through the chat. So don't worry if you forgot to put something in the Q&A, just put it into the chat. We're going to go through all of them. So as I go through, I know I usually have lots of questions. You know, don't be scared to ask the question. I will answer it. Just be sure to put it into the chat or the Q&A. And to answer this one question right now, yes, this webinar is being recorded. And yes, you will receive a recording of the webinar. All right, so now we're going to get into what to write. So these are the grant components of a typical grant application. This is what you're going to see. So you need to know how to answer and address these particular sections. So the grant components includes summary abstract, mission vision, history, leadership, description of your organization, your statement of need or your target market, your description of your program, project, or service, right? So many of you are service oriented. Your community partnerships, your outputs, outcomes, impact, your program project staff, right? Your leadership. Now this pertains to your board of directors again, your budget, and then sustainability. And we'll talk about sustainability specifically. We're going to go through every single one of these components. Let's start with the summary abstract. Now, this is what you need to know. You're going to see this first, but you always, always, always write it last, because this is a summary of your entire grant application. And you're only going to include the most compelling components of that grant application. You're going to talk about like why you, why is now the time for you to receive money to support your service. You're going to include statistics. You're going to include what we call the ask, which in grant speak, that's simply the amount of the grant money that you're going to be requesting. So keep in mind, you write it last, because you're going to pull the most important components of every section of that grant application and put it into your summary. Next, we have the mission vision statement. So most of you as business owners, you have a mission, right? That's what are you doing now? Your aims, your goals. Your vision statement, which most applications will ask for. So if you don't have one, you need to create one. Your vision is what would you like to have happen right in the future? So think about it this way. If you are able to achieve your mission, what does the vision look like? You always want to align your mission to the funder. This is key. This is how you find the perfect funder. You want to make sure that your mission and vision aligns with the mission of the organization that you're requesting money from. There has to be an alignment there. So if your business is, let's say you, for whatever reason, you have a bakery, right? That's your organization. You have a bakery. You don't want to look for funders that only give to veterans-based organizations that serve disabled veterans that, provide different types of therapy, because there's no alignment there. So you need to make absolutely sure that you know what that funder wants to fund. That is so important. And in doing that, you research the history of that organization's founder. I remember I had one client, again, the Veterans Organization, and we were looking for funding. We were researching a couple of organizations. We came across one, and there wasn't a readily available connection there, but the more I was able to research, I found that the history of the organization's founder was that he was a World War II veteran. And so that was the connection that we needed. So always do your research about the funder, who you're asking for money, to make sure that there is an alignment there. All right, another component of the grant application is the history. And I get a lot of questions about this from new organizations. I think what you need to really understand is that every organization has a history, even if you're brand new. So no, you may not have 5 years experience of doing whatever it is that you want to do with your business, but your history also should include, what was the impetus for you starting the new organization? What in your past said to you, I need to create this company? That becomes a part of the history of the organization as well. What led you to create your small business? Think about the principal, right? Let's say there's a school principal. She's a retired principal, but she has a small business where she wants to go into the schools to tutor kids after school. So this is a new business for her. What she can do is utilize her years of experience as a principal, right? And in teaching those kids, it led her to want to provide these tutoring services after school. So her years of experience as a principal, getting to know the target population, which would be students, led her to start her new business. So that also becomes a history of the new business. What she did in the past, that was the impetus for her starting the new organization. Another section of the grant is leadership. So this pertains to your executive leadership, your COO, your CEO, but also your board of directors, also a description of your organization. So this is where you're going to talk about your track record of working with the target population. So again, let's go back to the principal. Well, the principal has 10, 12, 13 years of experience of working with students. Even though this is a new company for her, she can talk about her experience of working with students in her grant application so that they know, even though this is a new company, this subject isn't new to her. So if you are a more seasoned organization, talk about your success rates, talk about your success factors, and again, talk about your experience with the subject matter. But if you're new, focus on the experience of the leadership. The next section of the grant is called a statement of need. And this is really asking you, what is the problem that you are trying to address? And something that you want to keep in mind, there's always a problem. There's always a problem that you are somehow addressing with your company, with your small business. So for example, I like to use a cupcake bakery who wants to relocate in a downtown area. So you may think, well, what's the problem there? She's wanting to relocate. She wanted to start a business in downtown Cleveland, for example. I mean, that's not a problem, but you have to talk about it in terms of what issue is she resolving. So let's say that location in downtown, maybe there's not another bakery for a mile. That's the problem. So businesses in downtown Cleveland may not have a great bakery for their catering services, for their employees to go to at lunchtime. That's the problem that she's resolving. She's bringing this great bakery to the downtown Cleveland area. So whatever you're doing, always think about, how are you doing it better or different than anyone else? How are you resolving a problem or addressing a problem better or different than anyone else? And this relates, it does not matter what field you are in, no matter what you're doing. You can be a service organization, you could be a coach, you could have that bakery. What are you resolving and how are you resolving it different or better than anyone else? And are you connecting that target problem to the funder's areas of interest? Every funder has an area of interest that they want to fund. So let's say you have the cupcake company. Well, you could match up with a funder who maybe wants to provide money in the area of hospitality or in the area of restaurants, or maybe they want to fund a woman-owned restaurant or a woman-owned business. So make sure you're connecting that area of interest that you have to the funder. Now, how do you find out what the foundation or the funder's areas of interest is. Well, you can check their 990 or you can check their website. Now, the 990 is the tax form that organizations and foundations have to submit to the Internal Revenue Service. It is their tax form. And on that 990, way in the back, right? These are some of the last pages of the 990, is a list of every organization that they have given money to for that year, unless you're like a conglomerate like Ford or Coca-Cola, because it would just be too lengthy. But the overwhelming majority of nonprofits and foundations and funders, they're going to have that 990. You want to look on the 990 and see where they have funded, right? And so you want to see if you are, let's say you have an organization that provides pets for the disabled. You want to look on that 990 and see if you can view any other organization that they funded that's similar to yours, and that will give you the opportunity to know, okay, they're funding in my particular area. Now, to get the 990, and this is some of the tea, I've started spilling the tea for you. Go to www.open990.org. That is a free site that you can go to and pull down the 990s of any organization. It's a completely free site. So make sure you go to open990.org, and it's just open990.org. There's like an extra org for the URL that was put in there is not correct. It's www.open990.org, not /.org. That end part there shouldn't be there. So it's just, I'm going to put it in here so everyone can make sure they have it correctly. So what you want to do, you can go to this website and pull down the 990 form for any organization. And it's really as simple as that. So when it comes to the funder's website, the 990 becomes important because only, 90% of foundations don't have a website. So you need to understand that. I'll say that again because it's a really important statistic. 90% of foundations don't have a website. So that's where the 990 becomes really, really important. So make sure that you utilize the resource that I just gave you, the www.open990.org, and pull off those 990s, because they're just a tremendous resource for you to be able to look at the 990. Now, the target population, that's about who are you helping? Like, what are the demographics of your target market? That could include gender, ethnicity, income, age. So for example, let's go back to the cupcake shop, and they want to relocate in downtown Cleveland. Well, they still need to know, like, what are the demographics of their target market? Who are they targeting? If they're targeting business people, right, you may want to be able to get the demographics of the downtown area within a mile radius of the restaurant, so that you can say, okay, there are maybe 1,000 companies that are located within a mile of my location. And so demographics become really important because they help you to determine what your target market is. And you should have a target market. There's really no such thing as I help everybody. You really want to hone in on exactly who you are assisting. And one of the best ways of doing that is using the US Census Fast Facts. I absolutely love the US Census Fast Facts because they provide you with any demographic you want in terms of gender, ethnicity, income. Maybe you are targeting the underemployed or the unemployed. They're going to have those stats. Maybe you're targeting children under the age of 5 or senior citizens. They're going to have those stats. Maybe you're targeting African-American population or the Hispanic population. They're going to have that information. So the US Census Fast Facts is completely free. It's a government site, and it will help you to develop those demographics, because you will be asked on that grant application, who is your target population? Who is it that you're wanting to serve with your small business? So the statement of need is, I'll give you an example, right? This is, again, is who you're targeting. So I work with a beauty school, to write a grant to pay for operations. And so what was the statement of need? The statement of need was that in her particular city, there was a lack of high school students who were able to study cosmetology while they were in high school. Also, another need is that there are a lack of women-owned beauty academies. She was starting a beauty academy. Now you have certainly lots and lots of women-owned beauty salons, but she was starting a beauty academy. The other target population was that she was targeting underrepresented minority high school students. So again, you have to think about who is your target audience and who are you addressing. So I'll give you an example of how I was able to write this statement of need. Now, this is a synopsis because it was longer, but this will give you an idea of how I put it together. So you want to start with the problem. Too many young adults lack the opportunity to become trained in cosmetology while in high school. So that's a problem. Another problem, for more than 10 years, the Ohio Department of Education has not offered a career training program in the field of cosmetology for high school students, right? That's another problem. So we talk about what is the problem? How are you going to help the problem? Next, the ABC Academy is an opportunity for high school students to study in the high demand field. Now you're giving stats about how broad this field is. In 2019, the ethnic hair market alone garnered $876 million in the US. So what you're saying is that this is a fertile field to be in. So what are you going to do? How are you going to address it? Well, in a partnership with the local school district, we have completed our first pilot program with John Smith High School. We saw 6 students complete training who are fully prepared to take their natural hair care license exam. So you're talking about the service and how you created this pilot program. And you take it one step further to show how successful, right? How successful these students can be. So students who receive the ABC Academy classes, along with training and mentorship, earn an average of more than $50,000 annually. So you're showing how you are addressing the need, right? How is it that your service is addressing the need? And again, you always align everything back to the mission of the foundation. Our program aligns with the Smith Foundation's strategic goals to increase educational attainment and increase household financial stability. So when you are writing the grant, you always align it back to the mission of the funder, so that they know that there is that alignment between what you're doing and what they fund. Now, another section is not necessarily a section of the grant, but you need to know this information because grant writing is really all about storytelling. And you want to know how to best tell your story. You want to start with a message, again, who is my audience and what is the message I want to share with them? And what I call mining your own experiences, right? What events in your life make you believe in the idea that you're trying to share? So let's say you want to start that cupcake bakery. Well, mine your own experience. Maybe the recipes were passed down through generations, right? Maybe you're the first person in your family to start a business. So these experiences matter. The people who read these applications, they want to know more than just what a particular question may ask. So you are what makes you unique, right? You're going to sell your business better than anyone else. And so you talk about those experiences, you put those experiences as you're answering the questions into the application, and that is what helps to set you apart. But keep in mind, don't make yourself the hero, right? Don't make your organization the hero. Put your target population at the center of the story, not you. So we go back, right? Let's go back to the ABC Academy. Like, put into the chat, who do you think is the focus of this statement of need? Who do you think, just put into the chat, who do you think is the focus, the real focus in the statement of need? Just write into the chat, who do you think is the focus? Do you think it was, okay, the high school students, right? The students, right? The students who could benefit. Absolutely, it's the students, right? The poor students without resources, absolutely. It wasn't the beauty academy, right? the transformation is going to happen in the life of the student. And so you may be thinking, well, what about that cupcake company? Like whose lives are going to be transformed? Well, they may be the best cupcakes that people have ever tasted, right? I mean, you are doing a service by providing this great bakery within a mile radius of the downtown area. So you're helping out businesses there who now have a great bakery, right? Maybe they can buy your goods to impress their clients, right? So there's so many ways in which you can talk about the service that you're providing to your clients. So keep in mind, a story without a challenge simply isn't very interesting. And again, this is where you talk about your story, because maybe in that location where that bakery is going to start and open, maybe there were 10 stores there before that failed, right? And so maybe you can talk about how, okay, I'm the latest, but I'm the greatest. I'm going to be successful because, and you can talk about ways in which you know you're going to be successful. Just make sure, again, with all stories, that you keep it simple. So are you telling your story the best? That's what you have to ask yourself when you are applying for these grants. You need to show how lives are going to be changed or how the outcome is going to be achieved based on whatever service or product that you're providing. You want to appeal to the human factor, what we call core values, focus on the benefits of the organization, use real examples, testimonials, case studies. There should be an emotional connection. For all of you business owners on your website, you should absolutely have testimonials. They should be on the home page of your website, hands down. And one of the best ways to show your success rate is through video. And it doesn't have to be expensive. You can literally tape a 2 to 3 minute video. You can have one of your clients hold up I'm an Android person, hold up their Android or their iPhone and have them talking to that screen for a minute and a half about how this is the best cupcake you've ever tasted, that they've ever tasted in their lives. It can be something that simple. It doesn't have to be expensive, but all of you, every one of you should have a video on your website that shows some type of testimonial or case studies or transformation that you've been able to develop based on your product or your service. And again, it doesn't have to be expensive. I can assure you, I've been in so many meetings with foundation leaders, with program managers, and I've had my client with me, and we're going through the client's service and product, and we're talking, and I can tell you nothing is more effective than when we show that 2 to 3 minute video, because that organization comes to life through that film. And so you literally can see the program director face changing and really being so interested into the story of the organization based on the video. So all of you absolutely, make sure that you're getting testimonials of your organization. So here's another question that you have to ask when you're grant writing. What are you asking for? Are you asking for operations money or program project money? Keep in mind that as of 2020, only about 32% of foundations provide general operating support to their grantees. What is the difference? In general operating support, you decide where you want to apply the funds. Doesn't matter if it's IT, salaries, rent, utilities, supplies. You decide where the money is going to go, which is probably why most foundations don't provide general operating support, because they have less control over the money. Now, other than operating support, there's program, project, or whatever service you're providing. So that's a specific program, a specific business, a specific service that you're providing. And it certainly can be a product. So let's go back to the bakery. So let's say their service could be that they want to start delivering. They want to start delivering their baked goods. So that could be what she's asking for grant funding for. So just because you may not have a program or a project, you have a service, you have something that maybe you're adding on to your organization. Maybe you want to expand your services. That's very specific to your organization. So you decide, are you asking for overall operating costs or just very specific service or product costs? And in making that decision, you have to consider where are your greatest needs. So if you're just starting out, you may need just operating support. You may need to get your infrastructure complete. But if you're more seasoned and you're already providing a service, then maybe it's a very specific service that you're wanting to add on. So you're looking at the program project service grant money that you can then apply to whatever specifically you're wanting to expand or enhance. Another section of the grant is your description of whatever your program, project, or service is. And so again, this is how and why you've been successful if you are a seasoned organization. This is your track record. But also, if you're new, why will it be successful? So why would a delivery service through your bakery be successful? You have to address the need. Details. So you're putting in the detailed activities of your service, of your program, of your project. This is all a part of the description of your program, project, service. Again, if it's a new method, why will it work? So for example, maybe you have a small business where you are going into the schools and you're teaching project-based learning. Well, you need to be able to provide research to show that project-based learning works with that particular grade level. So again, if it's a new method, talk about the research as to why it's going to work. Again, always thinking about how are you addressing or solving a problem better or different than anyone else. And also on the timeline section, just be realistic. If you know it's going to take you a year to implement the program, just say a year. Don't put 6 months. You don't want to sell yourself short. Be sure you continue to ask the questions into the Q&A or the chat. Community partners are critical. They're critical. So what are the organizations that can be partners to your small business? And so many small businesses get concerned because they think that the organization is somehow going to ask for a certain percentage of their business. Money does not even have to change hands for you to have an organization as a partner. You want to look at whatever organizations are in the community that will help support your company. So let's go back to the tutoring company that the ex-principal is providing to students. Well, I know that in Ohio, anytime you have after-school programming, you have to feed the kids food. You have to provide food. And so she could partner with the Cleveland Food Bank because they provide food for free. So that could be a community partner, right? So this is really great, especially for new organizations and businesses or nonprofits, because you can try to partner with more well-seasoned, more well-respected organizations, which will lend authenticity and credit to your new organization. I was working on a particular grant that was going to offer violin lessons for third grade students in school. And we were going to work with the Cleveland Orchestra. I mean, clearly one of the greatest orchestras in the world. And they were going to come into the school and provide tutoring after school. So think about ways in which you as a small business can partner with other organizations. Again, not to provide the bulk of your services, but some component, some aspect of your services. So for example, let's go back to the bakery. Maybe she has her menus printed, right, by a local printer. That's a partnership as well. So any way in which you can work with other organizations to implement your project, your project or your program or your service is going to be beneficial for that grant application. And some of the ways you can partner is looking to work with universities or women's business organizations, Greek organizations, the YWCA, the YMCA, the Boys and Girls Club, or other women-owned businesses for sure. Now, how do you measure your results? This is also part of the grant application. Your outcomes, your outputs, and your impact. So outputs, outcomes, and impact. They're going to ask you these questions, so you'll need to know how to address them. Your outputs, that's your immediate results. That's what happens right after you implement whatever your service is or whatever maybe you're releasing a product. So those are the immediate results. Your outcome is what changes or activities happen as a result of your outputs, right? So that could be 6 months later or 12 months later. The impact, the future changes as a result of the program. What might happen in the future as a result of the outputs and the outcomes? So I'll give you a quick example of a program that helped prisoners develop workforce skills even before they were released from jail. So the output of the program was a workforce development program. They trained 100 prisoners in this pre-release training on the program, giving them soft skills 6 months before they're released from prison. So that's the output. They trained 100 prisoners. What is the outcome? Those same 100 now ex-prisoners, they've been released from jail. They began the workforce development program within 3 months of their release, right? So because of the output, because they received the pre-release training, now they can enter into the workforce development program 3 months after their release. Now, what is the more long-term impact? Well, for this program, it reduced the recidivism rate, which is the rate at which ex-offenders go back to jail, reduced it by 25% within 1 year of the release, because they were now trained in soft skills and job skills and resume writing skills because of the program. So let's take the cupcake bakery. So her output could be she opened the bakery in the spot that she was wanting to open. So what is the outcome? So the outcome could be, well, 6 months later, right? She's booming. She has a number of even contracts with some of the businesses that utilize her catering services. Well, what is the impact of having all of these new businesses that she's not only getting foot traffic, but she's getting traffic, she's catering to these companies? Well, her impact maybe a year could be she wants to expand. Maybe she wants to hire additional employees. Maybe she wants to add to her menu. Maybe she now wants to provide lunch items in addition to the bakery items. Maybe she wants to expand and open up another bakery. So the impact is based on the outcome, which is based on the output. And so you have to think about these things. And these are all things in the future, right? Because you're writing your grant application and you're thinking about, okay, what do I want to have happen as the output and the outcomes and the impact? And so another way to measure how successful your service-oriented program is, or your product-based program, is that you want to use goals. You want to set goals so that you can measure how you are being able to address, again, whatever that problem or issue is. And so many of you might know about the SMART goals: specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and timely. So here's an example of how you switch a regular goal into a SMART goal. So let's say your goal, you have a program, you want to reduce the poverty rate in Cleveland. You don't want to use that as a goal. It's too big, it's not specific. You want to be able to measure specifically what your program is going to do. So a SMART goal would be, I want to reduce the poverty rate by 5%. That's measurable. In Cleveland, measurable. For Hispanic children, that's relevant, that's attainable, timely, right? Within a 5-year time frame. And look, children under age 5, again, very specific, very measurable. So you're using these figures and data and stats and numerical indicators. And so how do you determine whether or not you've met your goal? You use assessment tools. I love to use surveys. I like SurveyMonkey. Google has a survey. I mean, even Facebook has surveys. It's so easy now to conduct surveys. So you're talking to your clients, you're giving them a survey to complete. Maybe anyone who's going into that bakery can complete a survey. Maybe she has a drawing, so people can complete surveys to give her data and feedback so that she knows whether or not she is attaining her goals. You can do reports, you can do follow-up interviews. If you have a service-based industry, people for whom you're helping directly, maybe you can have them complete the surveys, or just do follow-up interviews and have them answer some questions. You need to have this data so that you know that you are meeting the goals that you've set. So another avenue that you're going to be looking at and answering specifically on the grant application, your project program staff. So why do you need the staff on your grant application? So that the funder knows that you have qualified people overseeing whatever the service or the product or the program is. So that's why you're including updated bios, updated resumes. Also, the responsibilities, oversight is key. They want to make sure that the person that you have maybe managing the service is qualified to manage the service. Put in the numbers. If it's going to take, let's go back to the bakery and the delivery service. If it's going to take 5 people a day to deliver the baked goods, put in 5. Don't shortchange yourself. Put in the adequate number of people for who you're going to need to be able to implement your program. Your leadership is your board of directors list. That needs to be updated. That's kind of a pet peeve of mine because I see so many board of directors that's incomplete. So make sure it's up to date and make sure the resumes are up to date. Also, this is something that we don't talk about enough. Look at ways in which the funder or the funder staff can maybe volunteer within your organization. Foundations, and funders love to be able to volunteer for an organization. Now we come to the budget. The one thing you need to know about the budget on the grant application is that you have to itemize expenses. This is critical. Don't just say you need $100,000 for salaries. You have to break it down and show, okay, this is the amount of money I'm paying for the executive director. This is being paid for maybe my program staff. Maybe I need a virtual assistant. Maybe I need a secretary. Be specific with the salaries. Be specific with your itemized expenses. And ask yourself, are your costs reasonable? I mean, we know the cost of living in California is different than it is in Ohio. So put in reasonable costs. You can use estimates, right? You can use Amazon, right? If you know you're getting a product off of Amazon, you can use those costs. Sometimes you can attach your vendor quotes if you want to. Not always necessary, but you can. And then you'll be asked about a budget narrative, which is simply a written out format of how you're using the funding. But be sure that you connect it back to the goal of the program. So for example, if I say I need money for a secretary, make sure you write in that narrative how that secretary is helping to implement the program so that you are tying the dollar amount back to the goal of the program. That becomes key. Now, this section here can be tricky, sustainability. Keep in mind that only about 20% of nonprofit income is derived from grants as of 2020. The sustainability question, and you're going to be asked it, how will your program or your service or your company survive beyond the grant monies, right? Beyond the grant period. And so for a small business, this question becomes a little bit easier because most of you are in revenue generating businesses anyway. So for example, you can say, okay, if I get grant money so that I can implement a delivery service, and that grant money is only for a year, you have to talk about how after that year, because keep in mind, grants are not guaranteed from year to year. So let's say in year 2 and you don't have the grant money, you have to talk about how you're going to sustain your delivery service. Well, you could say maybe it's from increased revenues. Maybe you're going to put more money into advertising so that you can get additional money in. But you have to talk about once the grant is gone, how you're going to sustain whatever service it was that the grant paid for. So you can write those alternative fund development plans right into the application. You could say once the grant period has been completely utilized and it's gone, we are going to put additional funding into advertising. Or maybe we're going to expand the menu so that we can drive more people into the store. So just think about alternative ways in which you can secure funding after the grant period has been exhausted. So those are the predominant components of a grant application. Now we're going to talk about a few ways that you really can get your application noticed. It's really about thinking of the ways that you need to position yourself before you write the grant, right? You have to show how unique your organization is, because again, you're going to be absolutely competing with many other small businesses. Strategize first, do the research. This is so critical. Match your organization with the appropriate funder. Do your research, look at the 990s, look at the websites to make sure that they are funding other organizations that are similar to yours. Gain those community partners. You never know how well you can use partnerships. Maybe one of those community partners, maybe some of their board members might know the board members of the foundation that you're trying to secure funding from. You never know. There's just endless ways that you can use those community partnerships to your benefit. And this is key, relationship building. Always, 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 if at all possible, meet with the funder first. So I always tell this story. I was in a meeting with foundation executives and program directors, and I heard one of them say, look, if I have applications in front of me and these people have not contacted me, they've not called me, they've not emailed me, I'm not looking at that application. It's probably going in the garbage. Now, that doesn't happen with everyone, right? But do your due diligence. If at all possible, reach out to that foundation and try to meet with them. Introduce yourself. Let them know who you are so that you can set yourself apart. This becomes so important. And look, there will be foundations that don't want to meet, and that's okay. They will tell you, just complete the application, send it in, follow the progress, right? Rather, follow the process. And that's it. That's our process. We don't meet with applicants. That's perfectly okay. But if you have a chance, meet with the funder if at all possible. It could be via email, it could be via Zoom, it could be a telephone conversation. Just do something so that they remember you, and that when that application of yours comes across their desk, they know who you are, and you're not just in a sea of applications. Another way to get noticed, have these documents ready and available. Again, the 501c3 is just for nonprofits, but your certificate of incorporation, those bylaws, right? Your list of board members, any research models that you need, those letters of support, your financial statements are important, any other funders that you may have, and then a memorandum of understanding with a partner. Now, this isn't always necessary, but if you can get it, that would be great. And that is simply a document that's saying a particular partner is going to provide some service for you. And so you just have them write a letter saying that, yes, they're in partnership with you and they're providing a particular service. So it's so important to have all of these documents ready before you apply so that you are ready and that the process is a lot easier. Keep in mind, what are you going to ask for? Is it going to be general operating support? Or is it going to be some type of money specifically for a product or a service that you are providing? And yes, an overwhelming number of grant monies are provided to those specific services or programs or projects of your organization. These are some do's and don'ts. So yes, create a strategy, research that funder. You need to choose the perfect funder. Link the need to the use of funds. Think like the funder. At the end of the day, these foundations only have so much money, right? They can only give away so much money. So they're going to give it to those who they believe will utilize the resources most effectively. And also the ones that they have a relationship with. That is key, because more and more you'll find when you're researching grants that they will say by invitation only. Introduce yourself so that they can get to know you, so that you can get an invite to then apply for a grant. Consider time management, please. Grants are deadline driven, especially these federal grants. If they say that at 4:59 that portal is closed, trust and believe at 4:59, that grant portal is closed and you've done a lot of work for nothing. Address every single question. Again, I sometimes review grants, and I have seen just some wonderful answers to the wrong question. Reread the question. I always read questions 3 times. Reread and reread the question to make sure that you're providing the right answer. And just make sure that you're addressing some type of change when you're going through the application. Seek external reviews. This is important. Have your grant application reviewed, preferably by someone with a mastery of English. Doesn't have to be a professor, but make sure that they have some mastery of English, because you don't want to submit an application that's filled with grammatical errors. Don't use cookie cutter answers based on a template. Sometimes you have in your head what you want to get down on paper, but you're not addressing the right question. So that becomes important. Don't use cookie cutter answers. And don't ask for too much when approaching a funder for the first time. Now, what do I mean here? There are some grants that are based on a certain amount, $10,000, $20,000. It's a $50,000 grant. That's fine. That's what you're applying for. But with a lot of community foundations, you're just getting to know them. There is no set amount. There is no set amount of money. But you don't want to go in asking for $100,000 because you won't get it. They don't know anything about you. They don't know you well enough to give you that kind of money and trust you to be able to use it. So when there's no limit, I always say be conservative. Anywhere between $5,000 and $20,000, be conservative with your first ask. Don't underestimate the time. Please start early on those grant applications. Don't wait until the last minute to submit. And again and again and again, don't forget to add it. Grammarly.com is your friend. Now, this is a way in which you can use a letter of introduction to introduce yourself to that funder, that foundation, or even for a community partner, right? So I talked to you about the importance of relationship building. Create a letter of introduction. The purpose of this letter is to meet formally with the foundation. That is the purpose of the letter. And that could be a Zoom meeting, that could be a telephone meeting, or that could be an in-person meeting. So you are introducing yourself to the foundation. In that letter, you want to describe your organization. You want to talk about the statement of need or the target population. You want to talk about how whatever it is you're doing aligns with the mission statement of the foundation. You are not asking for money. Again, you are not asking for money in the introduction letter. You're simply asking for a formal meeting. Any research, do your research about the foundation, right? Because again, maybe your board of directors knows someone who is sitting on that foundation. Get a reference. Again, utilize your resources. Keep in mind, 90% of foundations have no website. So if you can get a reference, right, so that you can use a name, right? You don't want to send this letter you don't want to email it to info@abcfoundation.com. That's the last thing you want to do. You need a name. You can get that name maybe from a reference. You can get that name maybe if your board members know someone at the foundation. But here's an exceptional way. And I tell people, this is the teapot. I'm giving you the teapot now. The email. This is how you get almost anyone's email that works in any company in the United States and abroad, because I actually used it last week to get some emails from a company in Italy. It is www.getemail.io. And I want to make absolutely sure that is put into the chat. Right. So it's www.getemail.io. Absolutely. So you want to make sure when you go through this email that you get to address specifically who is at that foundation. That is important. That is important. You want to address that letter to a specific individual, because keep in mind, You're trying to get free money. You're trying to get free money. So yes, you're going to have to put forth effort. It's going to be some work, because at the end of the day, this is not a loan. This is not something that you have to pay back. You're getting free money. So yes, it's going to take a little bit of effort for you to be able to do this. But the getemail.io is such a fantastic way of doing it. Now, for you small businesses that bid on contracts, so maybe you want to bid on a contract for local city or county or the state or the federal government. And I do workshops where I talk about how you complete that application. It's sometimes very similar to a grant application. You have your summary, your mission, vision, history, leadership, description of your organization, your statement of need, but you also have a description of the scope of work that you're going to provide based on that contract bid. So the one piece of advice I want to say about those of you who are going after contract bids is don't underbid drastically, right? It will backfire. It will backfire. I get this question a lot. People thinking, well, if I undercut myself and I go in with a really low amount, will I have a better chance of getting the contract? No, it'll probably backfire, because the contractors, they have an idea of how much it's going to cost to build or to implement whatever the project is. So let's say they're trying to build a particular hospital, for example, and they want contract bids on laying the floor. And they may know that to lay the floor in this hospital is going to be about $1 million. So they're going to expect, right, bids that are around that amount. If you come in and say, look, I'm bidding $100,000. Like, I know it's $1 million job, but I'm billing $100,000. I'm just going to bid $100,000. It's going to backfire, because they're going to know that you don't have the scale in order to complete the job. So just be reasonable. Look at your resources, look at your services, and provide reasonable bids. Now, this is one of the most important parts of the webinar, because this is how you find your funders. This is how you find the organizations that you are going to ask for grant money from. And so with the grant research, these are your grant search engine portals. You're going to go to these websites and you're going to put in a set of information, because you're looking for organizations that fund your service, right? And so the ones that I have listed here are some of the most well-known ones. Most of these cost, but not a lot. So for the Foundation Directory Online, that is like the leading source of information on grants in the United States. It has more grants in it than any other database, maybe other than grants.gov. So you go into the portal, you go into the website, and then it will ask you for a series of questions so that they can provide to you a list of foundations that will fund your organization. So you can put in variables like maybe you're searching for only foundations in the state of Ohio. You put in what your particular area of interest is. So maybe you're a nonprofit, or maybe you're a small business. Maybe your focus is on the hospitality. Maybe you're in the health and wellness area, right? Maybe you're in the restaurant area. You put in that information. So you put in, again, who you're addressing, who is your target audience. Are you providing services for the elderly? Are you providing services for youth or children? You put in all of those variables into these websites, and you literally push a button and up pops a list of foundations that you are going to start researching to find out which one is the best one for you to submit an application to. And again, you're going to either go on a website, or you're going to do your research on their 990 to get information about that organization. So I'll go through here. So Foundation Directory Online, it's about $50 a month. So if you have a limited budget, pay the $50 and just work like crazy in that 1 month to get as much information as you can within the 30 days. And then just don't subscribe again. But it's about $50 a month. Instrumental.com is more pricey. It's about $170 a month. They provide much more in-depth information, and you can track your grants. So it just gives you a lot of bells and whistles. Grants.gov. Now, grants.gov is free, right? That's the single source for federal grants, over 900 grant programs from 26 agencies. The Lilly Foundation, I do have some churches on the line. The Lilly Foundation is the largest funder of religious organizations. Let's say you are focused on educational programming. Grantgopher.com, and I believe grantgopher.com is free. So that's a website that lists various educational grants. Grantwatch.com, I happen to like. I think it's only about $20 a week. So again, if you have a limited budget, you pay the $20 and you go in, you grab as much information as you can of your funders, and then you just don't subscribe again. It's about $20 a month, and they have a lot of great last minute grants. If you are a minority organization, urbanawarenessusa.org is just a tremendous site for you, because they provide grants that are geared towards minority organizations and foundations and funders. So these are some of the small business grant research portals. If you are a woman-owned business, you absolutely have to know about helloalice.com. It is the greatest source of grant information specifically geared towards women-owned businesses. So it is an absolute must that you go into helloalice.com. And I have to say, right now, it is free, but they're getting ready to do a subscription service, like a membership service, but please sign up. They will give you consistently grants for women-owned businesses, specifically for women-owned businesses. The Facebook Black Creators Grant, that is a grant for Black-owned businesses. The Amber Grants for Women.com, they give, I think, like $25,000 every month. So you need to sign up for Amber Grants for Women.com. The National Association for the Self-Employed Growth Grants, they have grants that they give out every month. Minority Business Development Agency Business Grants. The Small Business Grant from FedEx. Then if you're looking at a government grant, the Small Business Innovation Research Grants. But again, those are really for your more well-seasoned organizations. But these are just some of the small business grant portals that you can use, websites that you can go to get information about grants for small businesses. Now, these are two particular areas that I like to talk about that provide grants that you may not know about. And they're grants for Black businesses, for women-owned businesses, you name it. So let me ask you a question. When you think about banks and money, like what do you think about? Put into the chat what comes to your mind when you think about going to a bank when you need money. Like, what do you think about? What are some of the first things you think about? Loans, good credit, yes, good credit. A loan from the bank, yes, loan, exactly, being eligible. They want their money back with extra, exactly, interest, right? Savings, interest rates, IRA, a hard inquiry on my credit report, yes. Income criteria, building credit. What most of you don't know is that banks are one of the biggest sources of grants that there is in the country. Not just loans, grant money. Banks provide significant millions of dollars worth of grants every single year. You just have to know who to go to and who to ask. I've worked with banks before. I've been able to get grant money from banks for my small business clients. It is possible. You have to know who to approach. And it's not necessarily your bank manager. It's usually a VP that's within the banking industry in your particular city or region. So usually it's like your vice president of community affairs or your vice president of community development, but they have the ability to write grant money. So make sure, and it doesn't have to be the bank that you bank at. It doesn't have to be your bank. These are the majority of, especially your larger banks. They provide grant funding. So make sure you do your research about banks in your area, find out if there's a vice president, either, especially if a bank is headquartered in your city, but maybe they might be headquartered maybe in your state, or have a really good presence in your city. Seek out that vice president, go to that bank website and find out who that person is, because banks provide grant funding and significant amounts of grant funding. Now, workforce development is another area that you may not think about. You're eligible for a grant, but if you are a small business and you are hiring people, you are also providing workforce development. So that is a particular area for grants that you can seek. So maybe even if you have a completely different area, let's say it is youth development, right? So maybe you have an organization that really helps to develop and provide services for youth, but you're hiring people to work in your small business. So when you go to those grant websites, those search websites, and put in that criteria, you're not only looking for youth development resources or funders that provide grants for youth development, but you're also looking for funders that provide grants for workforce development, because you are providing workers in your particular area. So, don't forget to include searches on funders that provide grants for workforce development if you are creating jobs within your organization. So these are some women business organizations that if you're not a member of, you might want to consider joining. Women Helping Women Entrepreneurs, that is a Facebook group of literally over 500,000 women business owners. So if you haven't joined, I recommend you join Women Helping Women Entrepreneurs. There's the National Association of Women Business Owners. That's just a tremendous organization. American Business Women's Association, the Female Entrepreneur Association, the Office of Women's Business Ownership. But you probably didn't know that the SBA had an Office of Women's Business Ownership, but they do. Ladies Who Lunch is another group. And then in Ohio, we have the Women's Business Centers of Ohio. But look in your particular state to see if you have something similar. And so thank you so much for staying until the end. I am so happy. We're going to get to Q&A in a minute, but what I wanted you to know is what I explained earlier. I've been doing this for 14 years, and I know that I can only help so many people, right? So what I've decided to do was take my 14 years of grant writing experience. I've written over $17 million worth of grants, and I've decided to help truly as many people as I can. And so I've created a grant writing course called Grant Writing for Non-Writers. And I call it non-writers because I know people do not have to be professional grant writers to secure grant money. So it's grant writing for non-writers, keys to winning grant proposals. So this webinar was great, but if you are ready to go to the next level and truly start writing and winning grants, this step-by-step course can help you. So if you need that clear path, again, we hold your hand the whole way. If you want to save significant money on grant writing expenses, I said before, grant writers can charge up to $200 an hour. Think about your organization. What could you do with a $20,000 grant or a $30,000 grant or a $50,000 grant? So this is a pathway to that. Excuse me. It includes 12 modules, 35 lessons, 30 introductory lessons, because I know that everyone learns differently. You have some learners who are visual and they need to see videos, but in addition to the videos, and people ask me all the time, Linda, is it just videos? That's just the beginning. You have the written lesson, because some people need that lesson. They need to read what it is that you're saying. You have downloadables. You have a workbook with every single lesson included. And this is what is amazing. When I'm teaching you how to write about your target market, I'm giving you actual winning grant examples. So of the $17 million that I have won in grants and business development, some of those actual grant portions of the applications are in this course, so that you see how it should look. You see what you should be writing in. And you have an example to use so that you're writing it based on a proven method for answering questions. So it includes every part of the narrative, your basic writing techniques, your storytelling, the letter of inquiry, which we didn't even talk about the letter of inquiry yet, because that's another avenue that you may be asked about before you even submit a grant application. So we give examples of the LOI, how to approach funders and partners, right? We talked about these are things you need to do before you even think about writing a grant. We show you how do you approach your funders, how do you approach your potential community partners. There's a whole section on things you need to do before you even apply. So you have your lesson task, you have your printables, right? Your downloadables, everything is there for you. Your quizzes, and don't worry, they're fun. They're really fun, super fun quizzes. And then the grant research, because that is so important. We show you how to find your perfect funders, not just one, but funders. And so also, once you go through the course, you will have written your template for your organization, right? Because I give you every part of it. And even as you're going through the lessons, and let's say you get stuck, there's discussion starters built into the lesson. So you ask a question, and I'm literally the one that goes in and answers those questions. But once you're done, you have your template, and guess what I give you? I give you a list of over 400 funders from every area, from education to working with ex-offenders to youth. I mean, you name it, there's a foundation in there that's going to meet what your needs are. And you have access to a private Facebook group. And this is where you need support, right? Because I'm not one that believes in just providing you with a course and then just leaving you to do the course. You come into the private Facebook group, it's such a great group, because I have professional grant writers who are students who take the course, and they're in the Facebook group, and it's remarkable. People will ask, can you look at this particular grant application for me? Or can you look at this particular part of the grant application? And I have my the professional grant writers who are in there who are students, and they'll say, sure, I mean, definitely send it to me. I'll take a look at it for you for free. So it's a community, and that's what's so important. You're part of a community of other small business owners and nonprofits who are on the same journey, and you help each other. Plus you get 1 hour of group coaching, right? So every single month you get 1 hour of group coaching. So if you don't get something answered in the Facebook group, which I'm in there, I answer questions as well, come to the hour-long group coaching session every month to get your questions answered. And this is a self-paced course. It is self-paced, right? You start it whenever you want, you finish it whenever you want. So I have an unbelievable discount for you. The 12 modules and the 35 lessons with the videos normally cost $3,549. The 30 introductory videos are $599. The 400 funders, if you ask me for that list, is $499. The planners, I give you goal planners. I give you grant tracking planners so that you can literally track your progress when you are applying for grants. Everything is included. So the regular value is $4,997. You're getting the course for $997. That's the regular price of the course. For the month of April, most of you know this is my birthday month, so I reduced the price half off to $497 to celebrate my birthday. But since you came to this webinar, I appreciate your time. I'm giving you like a once-in-a-lifetime deal, truly. You can get the entire course that's worth $5,000 for one payment. This is not a monthly payment. For one payment of $197. That's it. But it's only for the next 3 days, but you must use the coupon. So when you go to the course, it's $497. I'm giving you a $300 coupon. You use the coupon code, which is April W300 off. You put that into the section where you are going to check out. Is right below the $497, because I don't want you to buy it at $497. It's only $197. Use the coupon code April W 300 off. Literally, you will get, this is the entire course. People ask me, Linda, is that a monthly payment? It is not a monthly payment. It is one payment only, but it's just for the next 3 days. So I want to make absolutely sure that it is put into the, yes, that's right. It's put into the chat, April W 300 off. It is just for the next 3 days. It is until Friday at 11:59 p.m. So again, Friday at 11:59 p.m. is the cutoff. I want you to take advantage of the offer, because if you wait, it's going to be $497, and then it's going back up to $997. And so people go into the portal, they wait, and they go in and they see $497, and sometimes they see $997. It's like, oh my gosh, she was right. Like, I was able to get this course for $197 and I didn't do it. So you have this opportunity for the next 3 days to get it at April W 300 off. Make sure you put in the code. And again, this is a community of small businesses who are serious about getting free money to continue on with their business. So really think about, what could you do with a $20,000 grant or a $50,000 grant? You paid $197 for a course that shows you exactly how to do it. This is all you get. It's a $300 off coupon. The deadline is April 29th. And I talked about the free group coaching. The next one is May 19th, but you don't have to wait until then. You come into the private Facebook group, you ask any questions that you have, you'll get them answered. This is really about moving your organization forward for a small amount of money. You can learn how to infuse cash through grants into your organization. The students are winning grants, they're getting money for their organizations, and you can do the same for what is going to be just an unbelievable deal for the next 3 days. And so I put this up here because you need to know that at the end of those 12 modules, you've written your grant proposal. Like, you've written your proposal, you're ready. I give you 400 foundations so that you can look through to see if you have any matching opportunities. And this is really important, that you can write a $10,000, $50,000, $100,000 or more grant. You paid $197 to have everything you need to know to be successful. Most 990 forms, like the regular 990 form, you need income of at least $50,000 to file a regular 990 form. So that becomes important too, especially if you're a nonprofit. So you should have the link to the course into the chat. I see that in there. And just to give you some testimonials, this was Kim. Kim said, I invested in this program recently. It is amazing. Linda Peavy is a master grant writing guru. Thank you, Kim. Carla says, I am so glad I signed up for this course. It is straightforward and very easy to understand and chock full of information. Thank you for this, Linda. Paulina says, I would like to thank you for this page and the course. The course was easy to read, listen to, and understand. I've already signed up for notifications from Hello Alice, and the information I've received is very helpful. Hello Alice is just fantastic. And then Linda says, Ms. Peavy, what a great idea to become a grant service provider. Thank you. So Linda wanted to become a grant writer. And so she took the course so that she could become a professional grant writer. And she took it, and that is exactly what she does. So she has clients. I mean, I know this is amazing how people who've taken the course, they've become so good at writing grants that they became professional grant writers. And now they're helping other people to secure the funding. So if you want to become a professional grant writer, the course is that in depth. But if you don't, that's fine. Utilize the resources for your own organization. I'm going to stop sharing, and we're going to go into the Q&A. And so I'm going to start from the top here, and then we'll go to the questions in the chat, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so what if I don't have any investors? You don't need investors to write grants. How do you find available grants for your specific business? So I did go through that. Those are the grant portals, right? You have to decide which one you want to use. I highly recommend the Foundation Directory. You go in there and you literally start putting in information about what you're looking for in your business, and they will give you the list of grants. Created a specialized curriculum for infants, toddlers, and early preschool learners. What organization offer grants in that field? So you go to the grant portal and you put in education, that you have a company that services in the area of education. It could be preschool, because you said infants. It could be, K through 8, K through 12. But since you're dealing with early preschool learners, definitely for early childhood development is a category. So you put in that category to find out what funders are available. How do you find grants? So that's was in the webinar. If I have a business startup for birth or postpartum doula care, should I be asking for operate? You can ask for both. So it's okay to ask for both. I don't want to confuse anyone. Some grants you may want to ask for operating money. Some grants you may want to ask for program funds. You can do both. I would like to bring doulas on as employees versus contracts. That's up to you, right? But as a startup, you might want to consider bringing them in as contractors first before you start bringing in W-2 employees. It may be easier for your operations, especially as a new company. You will get a link to the webinar. Yes, so the webinar has been recorded. With the output and outcome part of grant writing, all this is exactly, you're talking about the future. Absolutely, yes, yes. Would it be best to look for funders in our area, or does it matter? I always say do both. Always do both. Look for your local funders, because then it's just easier to connect to them, because some foundations will only give money to organizations in their local area. Do both. Absolutely do both. But also look for national organizations as well. For new startups, is it possible to write grants under another organization that is well established and still have majority ownership and run the day-to-day operations? Yes, absolutely. So you can have another organization write the grant in their name, but then, for example, they can contract whatever services that you provide to you. And that larger organization can literally write you into that grant as the service provider. The Lilly Foundation funds religious organizations of varying religions. Yes, not solely Christian, predominantly Christian, but not solely Christian. They do fund other religions as well. Do you suggest any books for writing grants? There are certainly books on Amazon.com. I would say go to Amazon, but I think it is much better to have a course where you can actually do the work as you're going through the course. So I see some people in the chat. I want to know if you're ready. I want to know if you're ready to buy this course, because I want you to move forward with getting money, with learning how to get money for your organization. So if you're ready, I want you to put in here that you're ready. Put in this chat if you're ready. Yes, the course is self-paced. So as soon as you pay for the course, you start the course right away. You may pay for the course and life happens, right? Maybe you can't start the course for 3 weeks or a month or 2 months. You still have full access to the course. And the best thing, the course never expires. The course never expires, people. There is no, I guarantee you, I've been in grant writing for many years. There's no other deal like this. There's no other deal like this. The course does not expire. You start when you're ready. You could take a university course and pay like $1,000 for a weekend course. Is one going on right now. It's $1,000 for a weekend course, but guess what? After the weekend, you don't have access to the teacher. You don't have access to any new material, right? What if you have questions after the weekend? I address all of that with this course. You come into the Facebook group with any questions. I have answers for you. While you're literally working through the course, if you get stuck, You ask the question, I go into the course and answer the questions. If you were to set up an appointment with me one-on-one, is $200 for every hour that you talk with me. If you want just a one-on-one with me, is $200 an hour. If you have questions, if you have that budget, wonderful, I am happy to talk to you. If you don't, buy the course for $197 and come into the Facebook group and ask me the questions, right? Or come into the monthly group training and ask me the questions. Absolutely work at your own pace. All right, so those are the questions and Q&A. I'm going to go back up to the chat really briefly because I want to make sure I'm getting all of the questions answered. Okay, so Kimberly, I read what you have here. You have to decide, right? If you wanted to be a for-profit or a nonprofit, you have to decide. If it's a nonprofit, make sure you get your 501c3. You will absolutely get a copy of the slides. I'm sorry, you will get the webinar. I don't give out slides. You will get a full replay of the entire webinar. Grammarly is great. What information would they look for in the letter of support? So in the letter of support, they're simply saying that they believe in the work that you're doing, that they know about the work that you provided in the past. So maybe they know the work you've done in your previous job. If you are, let's say you have a youth development organization and you've been in that area, they can talk about the work that you provided in that area of youth development in the past. So they're just saying that they support you, they believe in the work that you're doing because of their relationship with you and what they've seen of you and your abilities over, the past however many years. Do you have a list of available grants? I have a list of 400 founders in the course. So in the course, the list of 400 founders, they all provide grants. And again, if you came to me and you asked me to create a customized list of funders, it's $750. So I highly recommend that you pay $197 and you get literally everything. Is there a time frame on how long you've had your business before you can receive a grant? That's a good question. It depends is the answer. There are some grants for startups. So there are some grants that are specifically for startups. There have been so many grants for women-owned businesses that I'm not eligible for because you can't be older than 5 years. You have to be 0 to 5 years. There's been a ton of those grants that come out in the last literally 2 to 3 months that I can't apply for because I've been in business for 14 years. So startups, yes, absolutely. All right, let's see. Where do you locate available grants based on specific business? That's in the grant search portals, those websites that you're going to choose. All right, let's see. We're getting down to the end here. I noticed that there are so many grants that have due dates in April. Is that common? Sometimes it is because it's the first quarter. And so a lot of funders allocate their dollars in the first quarter, but it just depends. Every foundation is different. So some foundations only give once a year. Some foundations give every quarter. Some foundations give every time their board of directors meet. So it just depends. It really depends. There are thousands and thousands of grants that are out there, that are out here that have very different due dates. Some are in July, some are in October. It really depends. Will this course help you to be able to write grants for others? Yes. So I've had people take the course and they've literally become professional grant writers. Oh, great. So Nia, thank you so much. You just purchased. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Cindy's going to be purchasing. I guarantee you will not be sorry. Absolutely. So thank you. I'm going to try to pronounce this. Olajumoke, I think is how you pronounce that. He's a professor of management entrepreneurship and a coach of small businesses. Fantastic session. Thank you so much. I try to inform everybody because so many small businesses don't know that they are eligible for grants. After a course completion, do you offer a certificate? You will get a certificate of completion. Yes, this is not a CFRE course, but you will absolutely get a certificate of completion that you can certainly, put as a part of your bio for sure. Yes, I will email you, Professor. Yes, I will. All right. Yes, yes, yes. Lakeisha, yes. I want to know that everybody is ready to move forward. I want to be able to see you. The course does not expire. It is there for you. I'm so happy to see so many people who have bought the course because this is what you need. The fee is crazy, the $197, but I want you to be able to get it now so that after 3 days, it's going to be $497, and then it goes back up to $997 after the month of April. So I don't want you to be mad when it comes May and you go to the portal and it's $997. It's like, well, where did the $497 go? So I want you to be able to get it's $197. I do this so that truly, truly, from the bottom of my heart, I want to help as many nonprofits and small businesses as I possibly can. There's so much misinformation out there about grants, and I've been doing this for a very, very long time, and I want to see you successful. I want to see you stop bootstrapping your for-profit business because there are grants available for you. You get the support. I know that grant writing, it's not always the easiest thing. So that's why you get so much support. That's why I give the free grant group sessions. That's why you come into the private Facebook group. If you have let's say you have a grant that you're not sure about and you want to know, is this the best grant for me? Come into the Facebook group, ask, and I will answer. All right. Excellent, 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 excellent. Where are we going to buy the course? So the course, there's been a link that's been placed into the chat. You hit the link, you go right to the course. Be sure that you put in under the $497, it says, do you have a code? Click that. It will give you a space. You put in the code. It will immediately take the $300 off so that you're only paying $197. Oh, it says, I will be getting this class. I took it as a social worker, but it's one of those skills, you use it or lose it. It's not only that, it's not only use it or lose it, but it changes, right? So the grant atmosphere, the grant sphere changes. So you need to know how to write for grants now, right? And so this is so much about storytelling, right? It's about, telling your story the best and including a lot of what I talked about what goes into that decision to opening up that business. I mean, these funders, I read these grant applications, they really want to know about you and your history and what prompted you to start, whether it's your nonprofit or your for business, and then how you're going to help and where are you going to use the funding. So it's different now. So it's always good to keep abreast of the skills as they relate to your current time. Oh, Tamika, thank you so much. She says she took off work for this. I hope it was worth it. I know that by paying a small amount of money, when I say it's a $5,000 course, it is a $5,000 course. You're getting the 30 videos alone is worth a lot. And then literally when you go in, start at the beginning. I give you a welcome video. I take you through the whole course. You literally go lesson by lesson. You're writing not for me, you're writing for yourself. You're writing about your story. You're writing about your organization. You're writing about your small business so that at the end, right, you have your grant proposal. And the fact that you get 400 foundations That's just unbelievable. And also you have the real examples. So you have your workbook. Let's say you're applying for always apply for multiple grants. That's another question that I get that no one's asked me tonight. Yes, you can apply for multiple grants. Please never think that you can only apply for one grant for one thing and that's it. You can have one service. Let's go back to that cupcake company. She wants to start a delivery service. She can apply for 10 different grants for that one $50,000 that she needs. And guess what? If she gets it from multiple ones, then she just expands what she's doing. But as long as she's applying the money to her delivery service. So always, definitely apply for multiple grants. So are there grants available for businesses that have been in business for at least 20 years? So you know what's really great about that, Jennifer, is that you will have a proven concept. You will have so much information to provide to them to let them know that your business has worked, your model has worked. You can show that the model has worked. Remember when I talked about the testimonials, the clients, you can prove, right, that whatever your business is, it has been servicing your target market for 20 years. So absolutely there is. I mean, you're in a fantastic position. Whatever you do, please go to helloalice.com. There are so many technology grants that are available for women-owned businesses. I've tried to apply for them. I don't qualify to apply for them, but there are so many technology-based grants in helloalice.com. You would be, yes, you'll be surprised. So definitely that will be a benefit to you. So I believe we are done. I just want to ask everyone to, again, please take advantage of this. I just don't want you to miss out on the opportunity. It is a $5,000 course. I did revisions to the course. So this is like the newly revised version. So you're getting the latest and the greatest. And for any of you who know about online grants, oftentimes when you release your latest and your greatest and your revised course, you started at almost like a reintroductory price. So that's one of the reasons why it's $197. The course is $997, and it will go back up to $997 after April. It will first go back up to $497, then it'll go back up to the regular price of $997. I don't want you to have to pay that if you don't have to. So please, because you decided to be a part of the webinar, you're getting the specialized code. It's one price. You're getting just a tremendous amount that will literally help you to write successful grants, not just write grants, write successful grants. Okay, so does the Lilly Foundation give grants to all religions or only Christian ones? I would go to the website, just go to the Lilly Foundation website. They will give you the current grants that are available. A lot of their grants are for ministries within the church, for church restoration. So if you have maybe an older church that needs to be restored, if you have ministries within the church, they give literally millions of dollars in grants every year. But to be sure, go check out the website. Thank you so much for everyone for joining. Again, you will get a replay. So make sure you look for the email. I'm going to give the email of my assistant. And so if you have any questions, or for whatever reason, if you didn't get the discount and they charge you $497, we do the correction immediately. So my assistant's email, I just put into the chat. If you have any other questions about the course, definitely send me an email. Again, once you sign up for the course, you start. You don't have to wait. There's no waiting. You get to start looking for grants and writing grants immediately. Start with the first module. I take you through everything step by step. You can do this. Like, you can do this as a woman-owned business. You can get grant money. You can do this. And I know you can. It doesn't matter if you have a product or a service. I'm a service-based business. I don't have, other than this particular course, I don't like produce products that I sell in a store. I'm a service-based business. I have written grants for myself as a service-based business. So don't think that you have to produce some type of product. You don't. You can get grants as service-based businesses. So both products and service-based. So I know you got this. I want to see you in the next session that is for the group coaching. That is May 17th. But I want to see you in the Facebook group. So right after you join and you sign up, come on over and join the Facebook group, and then literally ask as many questions as you have about your particular organization, because every organization is unique. So you have that opportunity. So again, look for the recording tomorrow. You'll get the recording, and so you'll have it from soup to nuts. You'll have the webinar. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much for spending this evening with me. I hope it was helpful. Do this for yourself. Please do this for yourself. Spend the money and start securing funding that is free money, people, free money for you. All right. Thank you so much, and have a safe and a blessed evening. Bye-bye.